I am now going to hand you over to Salma, who is kindly going to run you through some system demos. So hopefully what I've spoke through, you'll be able to put to life.
Evening, everybody. I'm going to run through this demo. I'm using a test account, and like Debbie said, there won't be any live data in here. So you'll all have a login. You'll have your organisations that you're associated with. You'll log into PCSE Online. You'll have different levels of access depending on what you have, and then you click on your ophthalmic. So to start off with making a claim, I'm going to start with GOS ones because they're usually the simpler ones, and obviously that's where your sight test starts. You would click on make a claim, go to GOS 1. You would fill in your details here. Now, a GOS performer who logs in, their details will already be completed here. So you'll see like we're set up as a test performer, a dummy performer number. You can put references if you feel you want to have a reference that's specific to you, but that's not a mandatory fill for us. This is the date of your sight test of the person that you're going to be seeing. Now, let's say if you create a claim, I don't know, you set it up today, but your sight test is going to be tomorrow. You won't be able to put a future date in today, but if you were going to log back in tomorrow to find that claim and process the sight test tomorrow with the patient, you can change this date to the previous date, the next day. You just can't do it today, as in put a future date in, because you can't have a date that's in the future at the moment. So you'd leave, you could get somebody in the admin team or the office to create this, get the first part done. So you just put your names in here. So I'm just going to call it test 1 GOS. Make these up. And then whatever the appropriate date of birth of the patient is. And then you put NHS number if you have one, national insurance number. One thing to just point out with the NHS number and the national insurance number, because they're quite unique identifiers, just ensure that if you are filling this section in, that it's been checked. It's not being used on any of the claim by mistake, or there's not a typo, because when you get to the performer screen, it will flag as a duplicate if somebody's already used that national insurance number or that NHS number, and it won't let you proceed any further. So just little things to bear in mind, but these are not mandatory. These are optional fields. So if you do have them, it's good to fill in. If not, that's still fine. But your date of birth, your name, your first name, your surname, and the address is mandatory. With regards to date of last sight test, if you have it, fantastic. If not, you've got the option of first test or not known. Similar to your forms, your paper form, it works in the same manner. So you check your eligibility. You need to select the right option. Now, like Debbie pointed out, if you select the wrong thing, so if I was rushing and I clicked, under 16, obviously I know this patient's over, and then I forgot to fill anything else in. I thought, I'm going to go next. It won't let me proceed. It'll tell you what's wrong, what you need to correct. So I need to make sure I collect the right eligibility. Obviously, if you're not using, the patient is over 60 and you decide to put down they're in receipt of pension credit, please ensure you fill in whether it's the patient, the parent, the partner of the person, if it's dependent. So you select the right option there. You can select both, but as long as there's no conflicts in them, just as you would do any paper claims, evidence seen or not seen, and then you go to your next section. Now, whoever's going to sign, similarly, if you say the patient, you'll note that the system auto-generates the name there, and it auto-generates the address here, so you don't have to tick same address or fill in the address. However, if you pick patient's parent or carer or guardian, please note you will need to fill this information in. So, if it's I don't know, Dan, I'm just making up a name. If they live at the same address, you select this, it will auto-populate it. If not, similar to what I did before, you will put in the address in here or the postcode, click search, or find the address for you that you want to use, and then you select it. If you can't find the address there, you also have the functionality to manually enter address, so you can fill in the details there also. I'm just going to select patient because that would be easier. And then here's your declaration page. So you click on this button here, sign the declaration. Now, let's say I forgot to do that and try to press next. You can play around with the system and it'll, stop you. It won't let you because the patient declaration hasn't been signed yet. So click on here, and this is where your QR code is. So you've got the function of whether you click on here or if your patient has a phone, They could take a picture of that QR code and they could sign it on their phone, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever technology you have. It opens up this box for you on your screen, and then you scroll down and they just sign whatever their signature may be, accept, and you will get a message to say the signature saved successfully. You'll close this, and then you'll get back onto your screen where the declaration is and go save and next. Now, this is where you put your outcome. Obviously, if there's an early retest code you need to provide us with, your selection will be here. And then what is the outcome of this? Is the patient being referred? Is it new change prescription? So you fill in the appropriate thing. Now, if you were to say there's a new change prescription and a voucher was issued, you'll notice that these now become fields that you need to fill in. They're obviously one prescription, two prescriptions, entirely up to yourself. If it's just A, you just, A, B, whatever you think is going to be based on what conversations you've had and the site test you've undertaken, you fill this in. Complex, prism, tints, whatever's applicable. Obviously, if you were to leave this blank, it won't let you because you've said that there should be a voucher that's issued. So you need to select at least one voucher. So that's why it's quite intuitive. It stops you from going and missing something, therefore it can't reject. You will always know that there's something that needs to be filled in. So I'm going to go for one voucher here and then sign, go next. Now, just so that you're aware, obviously, if you have a performer, they'll have their roles. Debbie went through the various different roles you can have on the portal. The performer would get stopped at that point and it'll say save awaiting contractor. For test purposes, I've been given access as if as a contractor, I'm also a performer, so I can go through the full process myself. But obviously that may not be the case, and it may be waiting for you guys to get a contractor to sign, or the performer will stop at a certain point and the contractor can sign at the end of the day. So this is the final screen you'll go on to. Now, if this was a duplicate claim, for example, on the previous page, you would see a flag on there, and I'll show you an example, but we'll just sign this for now. Now, I can either go sign and submit. So this will submit my GOS1 claim and accept it. And it will show, and I'll show you how to search the status of the claim. Or I can do create a GOS3 voucher straight from here. If I create a GOS3 voucher, it'll take me straight into the GOS3 screen. But I'll show you another way of doing it if you decide you want to submit your GOS1 claim straight away. I'm just going to make a note of this patient so I can show you a duplicate example. So I'm going to submit this through, and this should say it's successfully submitted and disappear. Yep, claim submitted, and that's done for me now. If I go into the search for claim screen, you can put your dates in. If you've taken a note of your claim number, you can put your claim number in. So I'm just going to search by today's date and the fact that I've done a GOS1. And you still have this button here which says create a GOS3 voucher. So although you had the functionality to do it whilst you were processing the GOS1, and it was going to stay at awaiting contractor, you can actually go from here and go create a GOS3 voucher, and it will already have the patient's name, date of birth that you filled in, and then this is where you would put your prescription details in. Again, not an optician, so I'm just making up the most basic one that I'm aware of. Obviously, you would fill in the appropriate prescription and select the voucher that's associated. You get the drop down. If I was to click on the wrong voucher by mistake and then try to go ahead and it doesn't match the prescription, so I was to click create a GOS3 claim, it wouldn't allow me to because it wants you to pick the voucher that's associated with the prescription you've put in here. So whatever information you put, the voucher needs to match that. So I know this is the basic one that I'm aware of, which is the A voucher. And then you can sign this. Now you have the option of creating a GOS3 claim straight away, or you can do print a voucher, GOS3 voucher. Now, this is just preempting moving forward, but if, let's say, when we're mandating online and you're having to give the patient the details, and let's say they want to come back at a later point, or they decide they want to go to another optician, the two bits of information that are important is the voucher code, which is this here, which is in essence your claim ID, and your authorization code. And we do still, and we will continue to still have the option to print the GOS3 voucher if you wish to give the voucher manually. So I'll show you that quickly. If you click on print GOS3 voucher, this is what you filled in. Obviously, the eligibility is here. you've got your voucher code that was showing you plus your authorization code. And if you were to print this off, you can give it to the patient to take to another organisation. However, please bear in mind from the 1st of January, we wouldn't be able to have this claim submitted to us on paper. You would have to search for that voucher. And when you close this, you go back to this screen because all you've done is saying that I've created a voucher and I'm finished. I'm not continuing. What you would do then is if they came back another time, go into search for a claim, search for a GOS3 voucher. And if you have your voucher code and your authorization code, you put them in there. You know, you've got your contract details. You can search by date from and to, patient's details. So there's a few different functionalities that you can use. It's going to ask me for the authorization I didn't ignore. So we won't do that, but we'll have a look at today's bit. So it's important to have both. This is why I said both pieces of information are essential to have. If we have a look at today, so let's say, oh, see, I knew I didn't make a note of both of them. Good thing we won't make errors. So when you haven't taken a note of both of them, obviously the voucher code that you printed, you need to have that information. If you haven't got that, you'd have to generate it again, because if I show you in here, there is no GOS3 that's been created. Or apologies, and you have a limit of 200 that you can have a look at. Trigger happy. There's no GOS3 I created because I only got to the voucher point. So if you were like, oh, I've done the voucher, where is it? Why can't I see it? You can only find that under that search a voucher screen. So just be careful of making a note of those references and make sure the patient understands. Otherwise, you would have to go back in here, put your details back in that you just did, because it will not store all the prescription information. And then you take the details again. But these two are key. So I'm going to make a note of these before I forget, because that's what will happen. So you've got your voucher code, your authorization code. Obviously, if you're printing off the form, you know, the patient will have that. It'll be there. And it will be available for them. Sign as well. And it's essential you sign this so that when, let's say, if it goes to another contractor, they can then search that voucher and actually proceed with the performer signature. If you haven't signed it, they won't be able to. So if we do that, it should find it for me. Yes, it will. And then it's just as straightforward as going from here and proceeding. I'm just going to quickly show one more thing if I can. So I was on the other dummy code. So assume you're a different contractor and the form has been shared with yourself, or you've got the voucher code and the authorization code. So I'm just copying these in from my screen. So you can search these. So I've changed my ODS code to A9A9A, which is another dummy account that we have, and I could continue with the voucher from here as well. So it won't stop you if it's not your own store. So if you've got a voucher for somebody else and they've given you a voucher code and authorization code, these are the steps to follow so you can proceed with the claim. I'm just going to go back to my other organisation. You may not have to do this if you have one organisation. Obviously, if you've got multiples, then you can, you know, move about between them. If I fill in this and this one. Here's my voucher. I want to create my GOS3 now. I want to actually go ahead with the claim and I want to create the GOS3. So the details I filled in are there. The signature of the performer is there. Create your GOS3. And now you're going to go through eligibility. This is where your patient is going to have to sign again. So on every GOS type, the patient has to sign. You choose whether it's glasses or contact lenses. If I did the same mistake I showed you in the GOS one, selected the incorrect date of birth or the eligibility based on the date of birth, it will say, nope, that's incorrect. So for this occasion, I'm going to say seen. It's the patient who's in receipt of pension credit. And then who's signing? I'm selecting the patient and it automatically selects that. Make sure I get the declaration for the GOS3 signed. And again, you have the same functionality as the GOS one. The QR code can be used by the patient on their phone, the tablet, whatever technology they have, or using a mouse. So I'm using a mouse on a laptop and a a computer screen, and you can use a desktop, laptop, as long as you've got some sort of functionality to do that. Now, this is where the supplier will fill in what you're supplying. So I've only selected one pair, so it only gives me a distance option. But had I selected two options, you know, two pairs of glasses, you would have had distance, near, and bifocal, and then you would select what's the appropriate pair that you want to supply, what the outcome is. I just want to point this out at the moment. Obviously, we're in the process of changing our system a little bit. And exception processing is a process that was used for uncollected glasses, or that's what we currently use for uncollected glasses. Because you can't capture a patient's signature, we are planning on updating the system where this will no longer be present. I think there will just be the option for BVD changes, and we'll have a separate option for uncollected where you don't need to capture a signature, but there's no paper form needed. So sorry, I can't demo that today. But if you are looking to test this and start using this today, this is what you'll see. But we will provide you with an update of how the screens will look like once the changes take place, because once the changes take place and we can't accept paper, this exception processing will no longer exist. But this is what you'll see. Everything else will remain the same. So I've selected glasses rather than contact lenses on this occasion. Obviously, you select what's appropriate, the outcome, and then if there's any special features that you need to select, you'd select those. And it auto calculates for you what the value is. But you could have, like, you may wish to retail it down because you've got an offer on. You just fill that section in blue, so it's highlighted, but it's not a mandatory box. But if you do fill it in, you'll know that this is what you're going to get paid. That is after, you know, that value is filled in. If you leave that as it is, you get paid the full value of what the voucher is, if that's what you're charging them. And then you put your supply date whenever it's being supplied. So if you're giving the glasses to me on the same day, I do that. Supplier would sign this, and then you go save and next. But you've got all these other options for whatever reason. If you think, oh, no, I shouldn't be doing this claim, that, you know, we're not going ahead, and you want to cancel it, you can cancel a claim. You can revert it back to draft if you feel that you want to change some details, but please be aware that if you revert it back to draft, you lose the signature, so you'd have to get everything signed again. So just, you know, be aware of the steps you're in and what you need to do next. But let's say you're quite happy with everything you've gone through, you've looked over it again, you're like, yep, signed, I'm happy with all of this. I would go save and next. Just gonna wait for it. It will bring you to the final declaration, which is your patient's declaration to say that they're collecting that pair of glasses. Again, you select who's collecting them, the outcome, get it signed. So your second signature to match how your GOS form is, the QR code, and squiggles like me, confirming what pair of glasses they are, and then you submit. And that's your claim done. Now, before I move on to any of the GOS type, I'll just show you. You can, if you're wanting to check if your claims have gone through or if they haven't, what status they're at, there is a limit on how many you can search in this screen, which is a maximum of 200. So you want to narrow the dates down. But if you put today's date and you wanted to see what claims you've done, all you need to have is your organisation details, which is what will auto-populate for you. Your claim type, if you want to check a claim type. But if I just narrowed it down to today's date, I will see two claims. One is an accepted GOS 1 with that same patient, and then the GOS 3 off the back of it as well. So I've processed both of those through, and I know they're accepted, and these will get paid in my next payment run or my next statement. So that's your GOS 1s and your GOS 3s. I will move on to, you bear with me, GOS 4s. Now, just eligibility screens are pretty much the same for all of them. It's just each GOS type has a slight different way of working, and the nuance is a bit like what you have on paper. So same thing here. If we do test on GOS 4, now if the patient's under 16, you don't need to get an approval code, but if the patient's over 16, you will need to, and the system will ask you for that if you do put a date of birth over 16. So I'm going to try an under 16 first, but then I can also show you somebody who's over 16 as well. So again, similarly, if you have any of this information, please do fill it in. If not, fill it in as you would do on your form. This patient's under 16. Have I seen their eligibility? I'm saying I have, but if you haven't, you'd put no. And then you don't have to fill this in for a patient again under 16. It's not a mandatory field, but if they were over 16, then you would need to ensure you provide sort of a reason for why or a description for how it was lost or the damage happened. Because this patient's under 16, you only have the option of a parent or a care or guardian, so you'd select the appropriate one, put the name in. Obviously, mine's dummy, so I've just put mum. Same address as patient if they live at the same address that you've got. If not, again, you have that same functionality. You untick this, you put your postcode in here and do a search or enter manually. Sign the declaration. Save it next. So it always brings you onto the screen and it's literally moving on to the next one, stage by stage. And again, like I mentioned with the GOS 3s, this exception processing is for uncollected glasses, which applies to the GOS 4s, but that will change from January. And as it is, it's not available, but we will send information on there. You will fill in then for this GOS 4 what it is. Is it a repair or is it a replacement? Which one of these is, and then you put the appropriate prescription in if there's a lens. So if it's going to be like a replacement, we would always expect a prescription because there's a lens involved. If it's not a replacement, it's just a repair and it's not a lens we're repairing, like just a frame, you don't need to fill this in. I know it's highlighted blue to fill in, but it's not needed if the only thing you're replacing is a frame. But I'm going to do a full replacement, so that's what we fill in here when it's a replacement. We'll put the basic prescription that I put on my other one, and you have to ensure you select your voucher. And again, it's similarly, if I forgot to fill bits in and I left the voucher code and I thought, well, can I tick any of these? No, I can't because I'm replacing the whole. Is there any special features? Is it prism controlled? Do I want to retail the value down? But it's not got a value yet because there's no voucher information at the moment. But if you've forgotten and you're thinking, right, I'll fill that in, I've got my prescription, I'm going next, it won't let you. It'll always make you come back. So you just need to, follow wherever that red line is or wherever the red writing comes up, this is where your gap is. You need to have a look at that. And like I said, if you want to retail anything down, you've got the options here. If you don't want to, you leave it as it is. It's a very poor signature, but that's okay. After you've signed it, save and next. And again, you're looking to select the option that you selected previously. So if I tick repaired, no, it shouldn't be. And I'll say save. Declaration. It's not going to let me because it's saying, well, actually, on the previous screen, you're saying the supplier is saying we replaced the glasses, but you're saying they're repaired. So that's not right. So it will also stop you from selecting the incorrect option for the outcome. Obviously, you can't sign it if there's an error. So it allowed me to sign now, or the patient to sign, accept, and then you'd submit. And when you submit this, again, here's your claim ID down here. You submit this and you will come to claim submitted. That's your claim accepted. And if we were to search it, you would see your GOS folder. I'll do a quick GOS 5. Now, your GOS 1s, your GOS 5s and your GOS 6s, you can process a GOS 3 off the back of them if they're eligible. So again, we will test one GOS 5. If I do first sight test, and then the eligibility. So whose certificate is it? You don't have to put, like HC, just put, or the reference, just put, whatever number you want it to be. Based on it, that's your maximum characters. 9, I think it is. You can put as maximum, so you can put patient. Now, if you were to put the partner's details, obviously you can tick that box and it will take that is whatever the HC certificate or whoever it relates to, how much does the patient pay? So we'll use £10, so it's an easy round number. They need to understand. And if you were going to do a domiciliary element in essence, but they had this HC3 certificate, then you'd be able to take that. They won't be able to attend the practice unoccupied, and then why you've had to do it as a domiciliary in essence. So you've not done a PVN, but it allows you to claim that as well. The full regulations, you know, the ICB can go through all of that information, but you have that functionality here, but you can't tick that box and then go save and next, because it's going to be like, right, well, Salmon's not filled in the whole box properly because you need to put like this. It won't allow you to just take 10, but also I'm not putting a reason. So you'd put what the illness or disability is if it's applicable. But I'm going to just do a straightforward GOS 5, save and next. But please remember, I always forget that bit where I've put the 10. I'll put 10, 0, and then I'll like press next when I'm testing. I'm like, why is this not working? You have to put the decimal point as well and the numbers after it. So you choose whether it's patient, parent, carer. Obviously, patient always generates it, which is the address. If not, you've got the option to select the same address, sign the declaration. And similar to the GOS one, there's only one patient signature in here. Successful, save and next. And then it's what your outcome is, which again looks very similar to GOS one. Now, if I don't select a voucher was issued, then this is going to remain greyed out. If I select a voucher was issued, that's where you get that option to do a voucher off the back of it. If we were to say, you know, we were issuing 2 vouchers, for example, this would be if you wanted prisms and tints, you would select those. If you know if there's an early retest code reason, you would select the appropriate option for the early retest code. The former will sign here. Now for GOS 5s, it doesn't auto-generate the value. So on a GOS 1, you would have noticed there was no pricing anywhere because it's a set price. Although GOS 5 does have a set price, it is required that you put in what you're claiming. So it's either lower of the private charge or the NHS site test fee. So I'll use the NHS site test fee, which I think is 23.14. I hope I got that right. I always forget and mix it up. If you had the domiciliary element, again, you would put that in there, but it calculates it for you. So it tells you what the maximum you can apply for, what the patient's amount is that they will contribute, and then what your claim value is going to be, which is £13.14. If you were selecting a domiciliary element, as in they weren't able to attend your practice, you would put the value there and the address here if it's different to what you'd already put at the beginning. Save awaiting contractor signatory. Now, most of the times you'd stop here unless you're a contractor and a performer, like this that is, and then you sign this, and you have the same functionality as the GOS one. You can either go create a GOS 3 voucher from here or submit here. So if I was to go straight from here, that will take me straight into the screen off the back of that GOS 5 because I've said they're eligible for 2 site tests. Now it's auto-generated in here, not because of putting, but it's transferred this information. It still needs a prescription. So if I was to put, and again, not an optician, so this prescription will be way wrong, but just for test purposes, to show you that it will generate 2 lines for you because now I put that in there. But if I selected the wrong voucher, it'd be like, nope, you can't have this. And then it will bring that error message up. Form assigns it. And you have the same option as we did before where I showed you printing a voucher if the patient wants to take it away or they don't want to place their order, but you've generated that voucher so they can do, or just continue with the claim. If you're continuing and they want to go ahead with the pair of glasses, you create your GOS 3 claim straight away. Is it glasses, contact lenses? Again, patient's eligibility, whether you've seen the eligibility or not. So this was off the back of a GOS 5, so it was a HC3, and then you would put your certificate number in, whatever it is. It doesn't auto-transfer this, so please be aware when it comes to eligibility, it will not automatically transfer the eligibility you put on your GOS 1, your GOS 5, or your GOS 6 onto your GOS 3. You have to ensure you check that at that point and fill it in fully on here. You put your value here. And then you carry on with the rest of it. Obviously, if you looked at this and then thought, well, actually, they get income support or they should have been eligible for this, they have this benefit, you can also then, amend it to the appropriate benefit if there's any other benefit they're in receipt of. Patient, parent, same section. So apologies, this is being repeated, but hopefully it's clear. So I've put in, oh, the benefit recipient eligibility is not selected. I've ticked that, but I didn't need to because this is the patient is named on a valid certificate. So I've ticked that in error because we're not using any of these benefits. So it's saying, well, you've not selected a benefit. So can't continue for my declaration until I've selected the right bits. And there's my QR code. QR code's available. Set. Save and next. And then it's just, again, going through those phases, you know, what have I supplied? Have I supplied the right pair of glasses? Am I doing a distance and a near? What was the reason? You know, do I want to add any extra features in there? It's calculated it for me, but if I want to charge £20 for this pair, it will reduce it down to the value that it needs to be. And then you've also got that £10 from the HC3. Have I supplied them? And if you supplied one pair today and then they came back tomorrow, because you won't be able to submit the claim with only one pair being supplied, but they came back for the second pair tomorrow, for example, then tomorrow you would fill in tomorrow's date and then get it signed to say that you've supplied them. So, you know, if it's easy and it's done on the same day, that's fine. If not, you do have that functionality. You could save it up to this point, save for later, and then come back to it again. Save next, and you can't do. I always forget to put the dots in. And then we're back to here. So this is confirming what you've given the patient then signs to say, yep, I'm collecting a distance and near pair. If there were contact lenses, the volume of contact lenses, sign the declaration. And this would be my GOS 3 off the back of my GOS 5 that's been accepted and done. But what you do have now is, because we went straight from that GOS 5 into this GOS 3, your GOS 5 hasn't been accepted yet. So you could go back into searching, go to your GOS 5, narrow it to today's date so it doesn't try to search all the claims that you have on the system. And then that's a waiting contractor. If you decided, well, I don't want to go ahead with this for whatever reason, then you can cancel it or just open it up. And then the contractor will just sign it and submit it. And now this will mean my GOS 5 is also accepted and that's all gone through fine. So those were the GOS 1 to 5s, including the GOS 3s. The GOS 6s work slightly differently, and CTs, for those of you that use CTs or have claimed for CTs, quite straightforward, but because the window's closed, as you can tell, you can't make a claim. We can't test it, and apologies, I can't show you currently, but I'll show you the GOS 6. Now, for a GOS 6, it's not like the GOS 1s to 5s. You have to create a PVN beforehand and you have to meet the regulations. Now, we did recently do a webinar on PVNs. So, you know, it might benefit looking at that rather than me spending as long as I did on that one, because that was over an hour to go through. But what you'd have to do is, if you do want to do a domiciliary visit, you need to submit a PVN before you do the visit. So it's, again, very similar to your other GOS types. You're going to fill in all the mandatory details that you have, which is predominantly the blue areas. So again, this is to how, you know, when you're doing it, please ensure the accurate details are put in. I've just got a test account. You'll find that things like the NHS England office and the local optical committee are auto-generated. Obviously, ours is a dummy account, so it's not telling you who it is, but it will auto-generate. You need to give the appropriate notification period. So for 2 or less patients, it's 48 hours minimum. For 3 or more, it's a minimum of 3 weeks notification. So I won't be able to proceed to GOS 6 today, but I'll just give you a quick example. If you're doing the PVN, I'm saying on the 29th, and do it for one patient, you choose the property, you would save this and this would generate your PVN reference, which is always when it's saved up here. Once you click save, it generates it. Now, this PVN reference doesn't mean it's necessarily accepted. You now need to put your patient's details in. So, and I'm going to say I don't know, and I'm going to save this patient. So you can add up to 2 patients onto your PVN as long as you've given the minimum 48 hours notice, which I am doing because it's the 23rd today and I'm saying I'm going to visit on the 29th. And then when you click submit, and this is what you need to wait for and ensure you see the PVN has been submitted. If you do not get that message, it means your PVN isn't accepted. So please don't do the visit. You need to then go and have a look to see if you can find your PVN. So search for a GOS6 PVN. I did quite a few when we did our webinar, so I'll just go back. No, we don't want it, is it? Well, let's. So I've just done a quick search when I've done like dummy tests on here of all the PVNs that I've done. Obviously, this is the one I've created today. Visit date is the 29th. If I try to create a GOS6 today, it's not going to work because it's going to say, well, you said you're visiting on the 29th. That's when your site test is, and it just won't allow me to proceed. So please don't ever go create a GOS6 on a PVN where the visit date is in the future, because it just won't let you proceed at all. And then if you had to change the date, you've already decided to create a GOS6 and it kind of places a blocker. So please ensure the PVN, is for a date that you can, and then you would go in. So you could cancel at any time, but obviously if you want to cancel, you hit cancel here and it will ask you, are you sure? We were having issues before, you could just cancel it. Now you have to confirm. On the day of the visit, you can add up to 3 additions as well. If, let's say, there was an emergency, medical emergency that needed to be seen on the day and you couldn't add them to your PVN, you can click on add patients, maximum 3, and it will allow you to proceed. So if I was to have a look at this PVN, I just want to see if I process this through. It will tell you the details of the date of visit, what type of property it is, the date you notified it, the patient's first name and surname. Obviously, these are dummy, date of birth that you've got, and then you go create a GOS6, and that would be your only way to create a GOS6. So there is no function like you saw on the GOS1s and the GOS3s and 4s and 5s where you could just go straight into a button that says GOS6. You have to have a PVN. So it auto-populates information that I filled in on my PVN, the date of visit, the PVN reference, and this is why these are all grayed out on here. You've got the patient name and the surname. You've got the address that I selected. If you have any additional information when you visit, let's say they give you a national insurance number and NHS number, by all means, please do fill that in. If you go there and initially when the PVN was set, you didn't know the last site test date, but you are given a date, you can put that in here. Let's say, I don't know, 2020, you put whatever reason it is. So for my testing account, obviously I always put testing, so it doesn't do anything, but you can save that in there, save and next, and this is very similar to your GOS1, apart from the domiciliary element of it. So you would select your eligibility, seen or not seen, save and next. So what have I missed? Where have I gone wrong here? So I've put 1983 for this patient when I set this up, so that can't be right, can it? So then it's going back and having a look, is it one of these eligibilities, or is it that this person's got universal credit? So this is the good thing, in case you're looking at so many different patients and you forget what did I put as the date of birth and you select the wrong eligibility, it won't let you proceed unless the eligibility matches that date of birth. Yes, it won't stop you if, for example, the patient gets income support and you take universal credit by mistake, because it's not that intuitive, but it will use the date of birth to select that. So let's see if I select the right thing. Save and next. Yeah. So again, patient, parent, carer, whoever it may be. Get your signatures. Set those. Save and next. And this is where you put any early retest codes that you felt were appropriate. I mean, your PVN may have had an early retest code on when you created it, because the system will say, well, there's already a PVN in play. You would raise it with us. We'd tell you whether there was one, there wasn't, or you may already know that they've had a visit a few months ago, but they need another site test because for medical reasons. So you'll be able to do that. And then if it changes from the date you do your PVN to when you do your visit, you can amend that in here also. So you would put who have you done the visit to. Now this one only had 1 patient, but if you had multiple patients, you can select, several patients at the address and then choose the patient. But if you do the top one, it only gives you the option for first patient. What's your outcome, as you would do for a GOS3? So if we said a voucher, and just do an A, You always need to click on this button. It's not auto-generated. So you would always have to select that you've done a site test, because you can't just claim a domiciliary fee. It's not allowed. So it has to be a site test with a domiciliary fee. Sign, go next. And then again, because I've got the contractor and the performer set up as one, I can sign both elements and get this submitted through. And then I can either create a GOS3 voucher off the back of this or create it when I've submitted this claim. So if I take a record of this claim number here, I submit this GOS6 and I've gone out of it and it's submitted it and it's accepted this claim, but I realise, oh, I've already clicked out of it. I've already, processed this through, but I wanted to do a GOS3. Just go back into your search claim and create your GOS3 voucher off the back of this. It will pull across as much information as it can for the patient details. That's why you don't have to fill it in. It auto takes you to the prescription screen. You put your prescription in, and then as the performer, you sign it if you are the performer, and you can follow the same steps I've shown you for the other GOS types with the other GOS3s and just complete it from there. I will show this one, but again, like I mentioned, I filled in the eligibility on the GOS6, but it will not transfer that. You have to ensure that you fill this information in yourself. Easy to miss some elements, but it won't let you continue until you fill in each section that's appropriate, and it won't let reject the claim afterwards. It will tell you, right, you've missed this, or you've selected the wrong option, or you've not selected this, and you fill it in, and then it will allow you to proceed. But this will go through quite quickly. Sorry, I might be tapping a bit quick, but you will be speedier than I am once you've got on this and getting through this. It's quite prompt. Obviously, one thing I would suggest is keeping only one browser open on your screen. So like this is a GOS3 voucher, so that's not it. But if I try to open two sets and do two different patients' information, it doesn't always work and it can mess it up. So always just work on one patient on your device. But if you have another device and you're stored, somebody else will be working on another patient, but having to open at the same time, we've seen that it can cause problems with some people's claims. So we wouldn't advise ever doing it that way. And then that's it. I think we are hopefully at the end of submitting this GOS3. That's been submitted. And if I do a search here quickly, and if you wanted to do like a tally up at the end of the day for yourself, you could put the date, select the performer that you have, if it's a specific performer, do a search. As long as they've not done more than 200 claims, you should be able to see them all. But this is all the claims that are processed, the values that I'm expecting to receive, and then I would see those on my statements in the following month. Don't know how many of you use this functionality, but obviously you've got to make a claim, you've got searching, you've got a statements page. I don't have many statements for us because it's a dummy account, we don't actually get paid anything. But if there is a statement, if you do a search, so yeah, I don't have any statements. I was going to see if I'd created any, but we haven't. You would have the option for a statement here. I'll try looking further back. I did try at some point, but the reason from a PCSE perspective we don't have statement is purely because we don't actually get paid anything. There aren't any banking details. So here's a dummy statement with negative funds. You don't want to be seeing that, but you can open this up and it will show you an array of the different claims that you have under the different GOS types. If you've got any adjustments, whether they're positive or negative adjustments, any levy deductions, it will show you those as well. So you have a full breakdown, and you can download this either in a PDF format for your records, or you can download it as a CSV, which is like the Excel files, if you want to tally it up on a month-on-month basis. What you will see, you will always see a list of your statements. So you'll see the last 3 months and you'll be able to search those. If you click on here, bear with it, as you can tell, it's just loading at the moment because there's a lot of data that's contained behind it. It can take a little bit of time to load, but once it's loaded, you'll be able to view all the details. You just have to expand the statement and it'll be there. I think that covers all the GOS types, Debbie.
No, that was really good. Thank you, Salma, for going through that. I know it can be quite difficult when you're trying to demo something on screen. So